And welcome, folks, to Rave United. My name is DJ Lewis Love. Some of you know me as other stuff on other podcasts. I do, but Rave United is my little passion project. I've been a DJ for a very long time, and I've been wanting to up this channel and do more stuff, more content on this channel. I've had videos here from EDC to stuff I've done at Nocturnal Wonderland, DJ sets, and everything. So it's coming along. We've finally crossed 1,000 subscribers. So the time has come to step it up. I've been having this idea for a while. Meet the DJ is what we're calling this feature. I don't know if it's already taken, if someone already uses that name, but I don't care. You know, we'll just sample it like house music samples other stuff. All right. Meet the DJ. And so we're going to have DJs featured here all the time and stuff, and we're going to pick their brain and stuff, and I'm going to learn. This is about me, actually. Sorry, I'm being a little selfish. I want to learn about music, man. As a DJ, I'm always learning about music. So I'm very happy that I've become a part of the DJ program on Twitch. It seems like fun, a little place you could DJ on, and I've met a few DJs. I've seen a few DJs there, and one particular DJ that really got my attention, that although I don't comment on his chat as much, or I kind of do sometimes, and I just watch him as I'm, dancing around the house, is NIX in the Mix. Okay, DJ NIX in the Mix. I understand from what he's seen, he's a veteran and stuff. But anyways, let's talk to him right now as I have him backstage, waiting patiently from his amazing studio. Welcome, NIX in the Mix. What's up, man?
Lewis, how are you?
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being our first official Meet the DJ guest.
Awesome. Yeah,
we have a few people in the comments. If you all want to ask any questions, feel free to ask, and maybe I'll include it there. So, man, I have a few questions for you, and
sure.
Basically, you are a veteran DJ. When did you start DJing?
1977 was my first paying gig in a nightclub.
Great year. And I said once in your chat, the year Star Wars came out. I don't know if that was big with you, but for me it was. As you can see, I'm a nerd. All the background.
It was.
How was the 1977 you DJ'd, and what music convinced you to start DJing? Like, what was your first genre?
So, prior to being a DJ, I was into rock and roll. It was Zeppelin and Bowie and the Stones and Aerosmith and Kansas and the Grateful Dead, and there was that Southern rock band. I'll think of it, but anyway, I was a rock and roll guy. I mean, and disco was around in the 70s. It started around in the early 70s. When I was in high school, it wasn't really a thing. And then I used to go to this rock club on Long Island. It was Hammerheads, and they had this live band called Zebra. They did awesome cover music of Zeppelin and Bowie and stuff. And in between the bands, they had a DJ, but it was radio station style, Anyway, I found my way up there. Long story short, made friends with the guy, got to hang out in there, and I kind of just saw how all the gear worked, and I was just fascinated by it. And I mentioned this, I was being interviewed about a week or so ago, and they asked me, how I got started. And it was funny, and I thought about it, and I thought back, when I was about 10, 12 years old, I asked for a stereo for Christmas, and it was a record player and a radio, and I had a cassette player, and I used to make my own mock radio shows. Put the record on, record was coming in and talk. I don't know what the hell I said, but in radio stations, they had 2 turntables. So I had to stop the cassette deck, put on the other record, kind of start it, hit play again, and continue talking like there was no break. So I kind of caught the bug then. So just before Saturday Night Fever came out, I had graduated high school, and, I'm still 17, and in those days, the licenses in New York were paper. There were no pictures.
Yeah.
So, and the drinking age was 18, not 21. Excuse me. So some friends of mine, these girls said, well, come on, come check this place out. We're gonna go dancing. I'm dancing, and again, long story short, I went. I just loved it. It was great. I was hooked on the music. So it was disco. In those days, in the clubs, if you were dancing, it was disco. That was it.
Mhm.
And that was it. It's the same thing. I weaseled my way up to the DJ booth. And the son of the owner was one of the DJs. And how I learned how to do that kind of stuff, dance floor stuff was, I said, I was asking him questions about the gear and all this stuff. And he says, Sunday afternoons, we practice dancing. That was a thing, practicing dancing. That was a thing back then, because at that time, you didn't get on the dance floor without a partner, right? It was hustle dancing. And so he goes, come down and learn the equipment. So I did a couple of Sundays, and then I filled in one night because one of the guys couldn't make it. I did that a few times, and then the one time I was up there spinning, they were selling the place, and the new owner was there. And again, long story short, he hired me. So that was my first professional paying. I'll never forget, the name of the club was Sebastian's. It was in Wants Hole, Long Island. So that's how I got started.
That's pretty awesome. By the way, folks who are watching live or on the replay, we do have a pinned comment, and that is DJ NIX in the Mix link tree. If you all want to follow him on all the social medias and stuff, I believe most of his information is up there. It looks like this right here.
Yeah, it's all there. I have to work on, I just got my webpage going. I just finally got a press kit. Because I'm pushing, I'm on Ibiza Stardust Radio. It's internet radio, but it's around the world.
Yeah.
It's based in Ibiza. Actually, I'm on tonight at 5 p.m. New York time, which is about 2 hours from now.
Okay.
And I'm back on Twitch at 6 p.m., which is about 3 hours from now.
Oh, boy.
So anyway, I have to, I'm looking at this. I got to dress this up. So I'm going to work on all my, this type of stuff. But all my links are there. So
the link is pinned to the top of the comments and stuff. And don't feel bad. I mean, my experience here is it's always a work in progress. There's always stuff to add.
It's like the studio. It's always a work in progress.
Well, I mean, look, man, we'll get to that in a bit. Your studio looks massive there. And great. You're based out of New York. Is that okay to say? Yeah. So
yeah.
Okay. So I said it already. Damn it. You already mentioned it. But yeah. So you disco, and then disco's not necessarily electronic dance music and stuff.
Well, it is. Just think Giorgio Moroder, Kraftwerk, Gino Socio. These guys were around in the disco days, and they were starting to. Again, was it prominent? No, but it was there. So, but yeah, but as a rule, it was not electronic music. Well, as we would say, as it is today, of course.
There's a lot of trickery with the statements. When you use the word EDM, who a lot of people don't like the word EDM because it kind of puts everything. Well, listen, I don't like the word EDM either, but if you want to say electronic dance music, I always troll everybody. I go, okay, hip hop. It's electronic.
Right.
It's electronic.
But in the sense of the word, yeah, it's not the original.
No, but we could play with that word. It's
sure.
Techno house is not really EDM. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But so let's talk about, since you mentioned Giorgio Moroder, and that's one thing, because it's kind of a little bit before my time and stuff and everything. And Kraftwerks, we played Kraftwerk stuff. I personally played it with the electro, with the sampling of the breakdancing and everything era in the mid 80s, and that's how I got introduced to Kraftwerks, I believe, because all the stuff was sampled from them. The history of house music, we always go Chicago, Detroit, New York, but Giorgio Moroder kind of derails that a little bit, because I do you agree with that? There's a 4 on the floor, there's synthesizers, it's kind of like a trancey house record. Is that accurate in your opinion?
Well, it wasn't really disco. It was dance music for sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't disco in the classic sense of the word. Just think I Feel Love by Donna Summer.
Yes.
Not a disco record. She was a disco diva, but that, his music was behind it. think Patrick Cowley. He was another one. But this was in the late 70s, early 80s. But it's funny, and I'll talk about this really quickly. Today, everything is so segmented genre-wise. Especially on Twitch, you're gonna
Yeah.
house music, and it's tech house, and it's soulful house, and it's progressive house, and it's techno. Back in the day, we didn't call it genres. We just called it dance music. And I remember there was a time in the early 80s where you'd be in a club and you'd hear throughout the night, on the same night, you'd hear disco and the beginning of house and maybe even a little new wave, and electronic music. So you'd hear all that, and the clubs weren't genre specific then. It was just going out and dancing, man. That's basically it. As time went on, I feel like everything just so segmented genre wise, and I couldn't really care.
Yeah, it's hard for me as a DJ to avoid that, because I feel about everyone everyone in the scene seems to be forcing everyone to pick a lane. Like,
right. Yes, I agree with you.
I like house. I like Detroit house. I like Detroit techno, but I also like Amsterdam and German techno, and I also like house. So and I love the stuff you play, which you consider like a progressive, and everything. And so, like, why can't I just mix all that? I like it. It's good. And
you can. There's no rules. I was told early on too, streaming, to just play what you love. Yeah. And I don't care what you call it genre wise. If you think it goes, don't play what you think the crowd is going to like. Either play what the crowd's going to like, or just play what you're going to like. You have to play for yourself and let them, because first of all, if you're in any kind of entertainment business, you're not going to please everybody. It's like the movie business, why movies suck now, because they're just making movies to what they think the audience wants.
Correct.
Back a number of years ago, when they made movies for themselves they were great. So it's similar here. And I listen to a lot of artists because I've now gotten into producing my own music as well. I have my first track coming out in May on Brooklyn Sessions Tracks. It's progressive. I don't know how you would categorize it: progressive house, techno, hard techno, a little trance. I just made what I liked. You could call it whatever you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think and there's also, as we jump a little bit all over the place, but that's fine. Right. There's also the thing where, like, in the United States, like, unfortunately, like, dance music never really hit like Europe. And there's actually like a lot of people that think dance music, like house and everything, is from Europe. And then now adding 75,000 labels to it, like, it ruins everything. Like, and the only reason I do want some sense of popularity in the community personally is because a lot of this equipment, like the equipment in front of you or anything, it costs a lot of money. So we want to sell records, right? If we produce them, we want to sell a few of them.
Right.
Not sell out and make tracks just to be,
I would never do that as an artist or a DJ.
Correct. But do you feel that you do need to sell a few tracks to, like, keep the hobby going and everything? Because the equipment's not cheap, man. I mean, every deck right there you have is $1,500 easy, right? Easy, right?
No. I mean, I got 4 decks, I got a mixer, and then, that's your basics. And then because being a DJ for so long, it's basically you're shuffling from the 1 to the 2 and back and forth. And you can get very creative with mixing, especially with today's mixers. And, back in the day, it was just up and down. We had no effects. We had no control over the EQ. But especially now where, DJs, just numbers wise are a dime a dozen, because the ramp to get in it is way easier than it used to be, right? You get electronic gear, or, you could buy a $500 controller, but get the top 100 off a Beatport, get yourself a Twitch account, and you could call yourself a DJ. Now, some people are good, Most are not. But there's just in sheer numbers. And do the viewers know what's good or not? I don't know. So I wanted to spice it up because I heard a DJ on another talk show. He was more of an artist. He was a DJ, but he was more of an artist. He said, if you want to stand out, you have to do something else extra. His deal was making records, made great. It was DJ Spen. It was a great interview. And at the time I said, well, I'm not really into creating my own music. However, I learned how to read and play music from 8 years old. So I decided, and I love electronic music. I added a couple of Roland synthesizers up here. I got myself a multi-effect guitar pedal. It's off screen. It's over there. It's a Eventide H9. And then I have a MIDI keyboard over here, which is hooked into a laptop that's got Ableton, where I have synthesizer packs. And I just wing it. It's totally improv. And it was to spice up the mixes, spice up the tracks. Because if there's a track I like to play or I didn't want to play the same version of it every time, especially streaming where I'm DJing way more than I used to, when I was just playing out live, right? That's not a complaint because, DJs, we love to play, but that's just the way it is. So you're playing more often. So if I wanted to play one of the tracks I was really digging, I wanted to make it different. So doing live remixes, whether I was using stems or throwing some synths on top of it and just getting creative. And that's what's going on with that. But yeah,
there's definitely plenty of more tools. And in case you don't know, back in the day, at least for me, my DJ journey was whatever mixer I could get a hold of and two 1200s, right? And a lot of this stuff, and the sound quality is so important nowadays. And I remember doing DJing for 2,000 people back in the 90s, and it was like a shitty mixer and two 1200s, and now they're telling us you have to spend $7,000 to have good sound. It's like, it sounded good back then. What's the difference? But anyways, a lot of this stuff to me is like so overkill. I don't even learn it. I should, because there's some great stuff like you mentioned in there, but I'm like, these effects are just giving me anxiety.
It's funny you mentioned overkill. I mean, I see a lot of DJs, they just get way bigger gear than, number one, than they need, and number two, than that they could actually handle. I mean, I'll give you an example. I saw somebody on Twitch, they had two of the Pioneer players, and they had a V10. It's a 6-channel mixer. Why the hell do you need a 6-channel mixer? That just baffles me. And then I dig, and then I find out they've never played live, and people do these things on Twitch because they want to appear that they're experienced. And to the untrained eye, as somebody sees this, to untrained, wow, look at that, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's nothing up here that doesn't get used. If it's on the table, it's getting used.
Right.
So
that's pretty dope. So we're in the we were talking a little bit earlier about the mid 80s or the early 80s and disco. Yeah. And what was your
disco?
I love disco too, and I think it's a shame that there is a stigma against it. I don't know if you've noticed that. Just with the American culture, is like disco sucks. Is like, have you heard the Bee Gees? Like, I don't know if you even consider that disco, but the bass line is amazing.
So there you go. That's something that they themselves didn't consider disco, but it was dance music.
Yes.
So, and it was during disco. It went. So, everything at that time kind of got lumped into disco, whether it was true disco or not. So,
do you think there was a little bit of I don't know because the culture, the clubs are so diverse. I know diversity is like an overblown thing right now with politics, but not to get political. But do you think it's because it was a place where it was really a melting pot? Going to these clubs was really a fucking melting pot. Even for me in 91, when I went to my first rave, it was like everyone was there, and it was such a culture shock. And I loved it, but I could see some people being kind of apprehensive. Do you think that's maybe why dance music and disco was looked at kind of like we're
I have my
weird.
own feelings or reasons why disco was hated. Now we're
Mm.
talking about the early days, right? We're talking about the early
Yeah, I'm
80s.
talking disco demolition. And,
Well, okay, we'll get to that. We'll,
mm,
we'll, we'll touch on that real quick. The disco demolition in Chicago was because the DJ was on a rock station and he got let go because they
yeah,
went to disco. So the guy
yeah.
was disgruntled. So let's just cause a big stir. Now there's a couple of great documentaries on YouTube about it where what I didn't realize, certainly at the time, but this is why documentaries are so great, because even though I was there during the time, I learned a lot. And there was a lot of people that felt that it was racial, and people were showing up with records from black artists that weren't even disco records.
Yeah.
So now again, I can't answer that. I'm just regurgitating what I heard there. So, but from the people who were saying it, as far as I'm concerned, they had credibility and it was something to think about. So
And
that could be,
real
it
quick,
wasn't,
I
yeah,
don't
go
mean to
ahead.
interrupt you. It did look like that, in my opinion. And the reason is because I do believe music is culture. And when
It is.
house music and soul music and all that is, and disco is black, and you're burning records with black people on there.
Right.
It's like, bro,
So let's go backwards just a little bit. Before Saturday Night Fever, where it just blew up mainstream, disco was kind of on its way out. However,
Yeah.
how disco started was underground. It was mostly in the inner cities, mostly New York. It was underground. It was black and gay, predominantly, and people could just go and not be. They could just be themselves. They didn't have to worry about, the general public being, whether they were phobic of whatever flavor they wanted to be phobic about. And that's how it started, and that's where it was, and that's where this great music came from. And then disco was kind of on its way out. Saturday Night Fever, number one, brought it back, made it mainstream. All the white kids now are, buying white suits with vests. But for me as a DJ, I mean, that was great. I mean, the crowds were getting bigger. I got to work in bigger clubs. So I forgot what we were initially talking about, but yeah, so
disco demolition and
the
why
disco demolition, right? Oh, so the other reason why I think disco was kind of hated was a lot of these guys couldn't dance.
Yeah.
Really, that you couldn't dance. Maybe they're afraid of going out to clubs to meet girls, and meanwhile, I was the other way. Point me in that direction. You go to the clubs. I mean, the women were dressed, the men were dressed. We dressed different then. We were kind of like in Saturday Night Fever. The guy eyed the shirt in the window, and that was the deal. So there was a lot of reasons why I didn't think that disco was like for those mentions, racial. That they, again, guys had no style. They couldn't dance, and so they dismissed it. Anything that's hated, anything is usually born out of fear, right?
Yeah.
So, they feared going to a club where they might have had to, I don't know. I'm just,
yeah, there was a lot of fear and a lot of, like, even when I started DJing, like I started DJing in the mid 80s. A lot of the rockers would really hate the music I played.
yeah,
Back then it was heavy metal, right? Like it was the hair bands. But now I look at those guys and I still know them, and they would call house a fad, and I go, "Hey, your music's gone. Mine's still thriving, bro."
Right. Right.
So I mean, I hate to put it that way. It's still both good music. Did you ever get to go to Paradise Garage or any of those?
I did. I was able to weasel into Studio 54 once when it was easy, when it was kind of on the downfall. Yeah. But after that, in the 80s, house music clubs, I mentioned this, it was the Red Zone on West 54th Street. David Morales was one of the DJs. You want to talk about, like, and of course, I'd be listening as a DJ. It's like, how are these guys doing the things that they do? First of all, one of the DJ booths was the highest up in the wall I've ever seen, other than this one hotel club out on Long Island. But yeah, I've been to, Funhouse, There was a lot of great clubs in Queens. There was Elephant in Brooklyn. There was Pastels, and in Queens there was a lot of great. And Long Island there was a lot of clubs. And there was a club on Long Island called Uncle Sam's, and
Mhm.
there'd be lines with people from Manhattan. I mean, 100 deep. So yeah. But and I said this too. A lot of the attention from those days, today is placed on, the big clubs and the big DJs and,
Yeah.
and deservedly so. However, there was a lot of DJs like myself who not only played on Long Island and Fire Island, there was the guys in Jersey and Connecticut, which there was tons of what I call neighborhood or local clubs where not huge, not tiny, but medium-sized clubs where you had 100 people on the dance floor, and it was a great time. You knew a lot of the people, so those clubs were. I mean, just in Long Island alone, I mean, there's Hempstead Turnpike. I mean, it was like cruise the boulevard. You could go at any club you want on a Friday, Saturday night.
Let me ask you a question, because see if we agree on this. I do love the fact that at one point the scene that I was going to, because I graduated in 91 high school.
Okay.
The scene blew up to the point where we got the EDCs, which I do DJ at. I haven't been on the main stage. I got side stage, which is great, and I'm blessed to do that. But when we first started the scene, you talked about how they were kind of smaller, 500 people, 1,000 people, sometimes 300, and they elevated to 100,000 people. I like that. And I started going to a lot of those, 100,000 people, Nocturnal Wonderland, all the Insomniac events. But then I stumbled across a few other events recently where there's like 50 people, 100 people, and those are actually better.
Better how? Tell me what you mean by better, and I'll give you my take.
The energy was just fucking people jumping. I got to meet people, interact more. I don't know. Do you see that? Sometimes a smaller crowd is actually more
fun,
yeah, than the bigger crowd. And that's how we don't like people, because DJs like people, right?
For me, I have no desire to be on a stage, and the closest person, and it's not a dance floor, is 100 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
That's not DJing, as far as I'm concerned. It's not. And most of the time. All right, arguably, sets are pre-recorded. What the hell is that? I want to spin in front of a dance floor. If you come to my Twitch stream, there's always a video of people dancing somewhat, because for years and years and years, I was in front of a live dance floor, and you got immediate feedback. The pluses and minuses of that. Where and it was fun to read a crowd, see like people walk in, you could see what people are responding to or not responding to. And then my favorite analogy is, oh man, I can't wait to get this record on. It's my favorite record. It's gonna crush the dance floor. Yeah, it crushed the dance floor. They all left.
Oh, there are so many records like that. Do you ever derailing a little bit, because a lot of us DJs have ADDs, me included. Do you ever hear a track at your studio and go, man, this is like, no one has this. This is pounding.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. And then you drop it on a dance floor. It's like a stink bomb hit.
Yeah. Right.
It happens,
so
right?
You never know. You never know. And it's funny too. I remember a couple of times back in the day, I had a record that just crushed the dance floor. They would just come, and I was telling another DJ friend of mine, and I saw him like a week later. He goes, yeah, I got that record and played it. And he goes, emptied the dance floor. So it goes to show you that how dynamic it is. You don't know who's going to walk in the door that night, what type of crowd, what kind of mood they're in. You know what I mean? Are they a party crowd? Are they pissed off that they got to work tomorrow? I don't know.
If the equipment doesn't sound good, has no bass or whatever, maybe that move the people. There's so many moving factors.
There is. It's really dynamic.
So is it safe to say that, or is it accurate to say that 80s to 85 you're a disco DJ, or where did the evolution start, or did you evolve, or do you still consider yourself a disco DJ? I think it's very important that this gets documented on the internet.
Okay.
As your journey as a DJ, who I say is a very young guy, but is also a veteran, has been around for a while. Because unfortunately nowadays, compared to back then, nowadays we document everything. We have these phones, everything's documented. But there's a history, especially when it comes to the dance music, 80s, 70s, 80s, early 90s, most of the 90s. It's all word of mouth. Like we don't have
Yeah.
we
Right.
don't have pictures of it. I DJ'd at a club called Babylon, which was 2,000 people would go every week. I can't find a fucking picture of it anywhere on the internet. Midnight.
It's funny. I was looking for the first big club I worked at, and nothing. You could find some people who have some like ads, matchbooks. That's about it. There was no pictures. I have no pictures of me DJing back in the day. I have to really dig. There's no pictures of me DJing back in the day.
And
behind the decks.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's like we have these awesome stories, and we want to remember them because history is important. It's the building
It
block
is,
we
which
have
is
now.
why I love documentaries. Again, there's a couple of good documentaries on house music out there on YouTube that are just, and a lot of it I knew, but a lot of it I didn't. So, which is great. It's like, oh, that just, it kind of connected some dots. Here's a great story that we knew back in the day, the song La Freak by Chic, Nile Rodgers, Bernard Edwards. We heard that the original title of that song was going to be Fuck Off. That's all we knew, right? We didn't know the story behind it or anything like that. Now you could go online and search that, and you'll see in a number of interviews, Nile Rodgers telling the story on how that song almost became Fuck
Now
Off,
Rodgers,
La Freak of Chic.
Yep.
Yeah. Nile Rodgers.
This is the guy that's in the Daft Punk video with Get Lucky for the younger people.
So,
I love Daft Punk, by the way.
He tells the story. I won't tell it if you want to check it out. But now, so that connected the dots. That's the difference between today and then. And again, the first big club I worked at was a club called Escapes in Long Island. I just such great, fond memories of, and it's great. I have the memories. I don't have pictures to look at, but I still have those memories. Some of those things are just burned in my head. It's funny. I did a disco set a few months ago, and I played this track, and it was like, not that I blacked out, like I zoned out, and I was standing in that DJ booth 40 some odd years ago. You follow me? So I have that. I have that. I remember what it felt like. I remember what it looked like. I remember, so, there's nothing was documented. So you were asking about the like 82 to 85. Here's what's interesting. You were calling disco. Am I a disco DJ? Here's what happened. And it was like, it was a transition, and nobody gave a damn that it wasn't disco and it was still dance music. So like, if you remember, Madonna came around in her first song, Everybody. I saw her at Uncle Sam's, early 80s, right?
Yeah, Jelly Bean Benitez is the guy who produced her.
Right. And they met at the Fun House in Manhattan. Anyway, but it was dance music.
Yes.
We didn't care that it wasn't called disco. We still said, "Hey, I'm going to the disco, I'm going to the club." And the music wasn't disco in the classic sense of the word, and then house music started to come around, right? And that just slowly, it was still dance music. As far as the club goer, right? And I was a club goer as well as the DJ, right? Because I wasn't working 7 nights a week. I was also the club. We went to hear the music, dance, socialize, drink, whatever. It wasn't just one thing. It's never just one thing. Which people try to quantify things all the time. And, with a definitive answer, it's not always a definitive answer. It's always a number of reasons.
That is true.
So, in that time, it just kind of just changed. It slowly, but we were still dancing. We were still loving the music. I remember when a couple of house music tracks came out, especially the first ones that we heard, I'll House You and This Is Acid. And it was not disco, but places were going nuts for this music.
We didn't know. We honestly, I didn't know what to call that. It was weird because I went from playing electro to, which I want to ask you this question real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Because man, because you were there and I have questions, right? Because I was a kid. I'm 12 DJing and I'm like, where does the Bobby O stuff come from? Who is Bobby O? Now
Bobby O, She Has a Way, right? That was the one track that was electronic.
Bobby O produced Divine. There's an entire genre here in LA. We used to call it high energy disco. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was Divine, it was the Flirts. It was all that it's Bobby O production. I've looked for the guy. I can't find him anywhere. Like, where's he at right now? And that stuff sounded like disco new wave mixed together, synth wave, right?
Yeah. Why do you have to call it? See, I think now, like, why do you have to call it something?
Well, but my question is, what do you know about that music? Because I'm like, what the hell? What is it?
All I know is we played it. Bobby O. You mentioned the Flirts.
Yeah.
The song that from Bobby O that sticks out in my head was "She Has a Way."
She Has a Way.
Right. And the Flirts. Don't put another dime in the jukebox. That was like 140 beats a minute. We didn't play 140 beats a minute.
Yeah.
That's when New Wave came around. It was like an 140. Disco really maxed out about 134.
Yeah.
135, 138 on the occasion. But disco maxed out at 134, especially in the gay clubs, which was always high energy. In the summer when I was on Fire Island. Oh, it was just, there was a saying, it's like I had a great weekend that night.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
They told me I had a great time, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't, I went from that what I'm calling high energy disco, and I know the labels, but just to like,
it was a pink label. I remember that.
Well, for the Flirts, Danger, and Taps, My Forbidden Lover. I don't know if you know those.
Mm-hmm.
Some Canadian. She was Canadian actually.
Right.
And then I realized that nowadays they call it Italio disco, and I'm like, okay, because I've always researched that era is so weird to me. And then it went to freestyle. Yeah,
not really. The freestyle was a little bit. Freestyle and house music was kind of parallel. Well, here in New York, anyway, because freestyle, Latin freestyle, I still call it today New York City Latin freestyle. It was born here. The hip hop, the b-boys. It was great music.
Great music. Great.
That's another genre we were playing in the clubs at that time. Nobody differentiated like, oh, you can't play this. It was just good dance music. And then later on, the later 80s into the 90s, where I started to tail off as far as working the clubs, was Euro disco. And it was kind of a resurgence, La Bouche and others, right?
Mm-hmm.
My Lover and all those that Euro disco 130 beat a minute stuff. But, from the late 70s of disco to that, it was a transition and there was no wavering. I mean, the clubs were still doing as well as they were then to then.
Yeah.
So it was dance music. It was,
So just so you all, because some of the guests, like people watching right now, they may not know or be familiar with Latin freestyle, or I would say the bands Lisa's considered that as well. Maybe Bobby O.
Well, if you said to me Latin freestyle, what band? Top of my head, TKA.
TKA, One Way Love.
All right, Cover Girls was another one.
One Way Love. There's a great documentary on that actually on YouTube.
On Latin freestyle?
Yes.
I haven't seen it. I have to check it out now.
Yeah, I'll email it to you. And actually, one of the founders, one of the big labels guys, is Italian. And I was like, well, Italian's Latin, Latin language. So I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. It all makes sense. So yeah, this music was big in the late 80s, I want to say. And it was a lot to do with that. You all had a radio station called Mix 95 or something like that.
In New York?
In New York, that was pumping those records, right? Playing those records.
We had a number of them. So there was three biggies for a long time. First of all, when it was the first disco station was it was Disco 92, WKTU, and then became Kiss FM, and then the king of urban music in New York was WBLS. They were a black and soul station way before disco. And then of course, as that stuff came around, they were so depending on what kind of DJ you are, you played, well, before early, we kind of dictated was being playing on the radio, and then it flip-flopped when it became mainstream. Depending on what kind of DJ, you were playing music from all three of those stations. It just depends what kind of DJ you were, as far as which one you drew most from. Because I remember having this discussion with this one DJ friend of mine. It's like, like what drives you to play what besides the crowd? He goes, it's usually a mix of, KTU, Kiss, and BLS. Yeah, me too. So there was three big ones. BLS is still around. There was a great DJ, passed away years ago, Frankie Crocker. He was the, I don't know how to describe him, but he was just the rock of certainly black and soul music and the disco, and they called him the chief rocker. He was just, but that station's still around. The other two stations, the Kiss FM is still around, but I'm sure I haven't listened to it. I'm sure they're playing hip hop. All these places, it's a lot of hip hop, which nothing wrong with hip hop. It's just too much of it. There's no.
I'll be a little. I will push back a little bit on that, and this is just me saying that I'm done with hip hop since '92. I think the movie, popular hip hop is just a money make grab. NWA, all that stuff is the real stuff, in my opinion.
For me, NWA was the end game. I love them for a couple of reasons. Yeah, that was my end game, as far as, because after that it just got, especially
sample a hit record in Cali, right? And put some bullshit on there and sell records. Right. That's all it is.
I liked NWA, especially, and then when I went to see the movie years later, I said, I really like, because they're rebels, and I'm a rebel at heart.
But you notice the movie ended in 92.
Right.
The movie literally ends in 1992. Right. And I've been telling people hip hop died in 1993.
Early hip hop, there was a couple of records that you could classify as hip house. There was guys like Doug Lazy. These guys were just lyrical masters. All right. The first hip hop, obviously, the first rap music was, these guys out of the Bronx, Grandmaster Flash, and those guys.
Who's on Twitch?
The Furious Five, started with Sugar Hill. And then, it was rap music. And then the Fatback Band, they may have been the first to do any kind of rapping on a record. And then the Sugar Hill Gang came out, and that exploded. But and also rapping, early on, it was called rhyming, because that's what they did. The DJs would get on the mic, they'd get a break in the record, and the DJ would just be have the same record, just play the break. Right? Yeah. No lyrics going back and forth. And the guy, whoever it was, whether it was a DJ or the MC, get on the mic and just go. Just wing it. And they called it rhyming, and then it became rapping. But it found its way into house music, like hip house. I'm trying to think. Besides Doug Lazy, I can't think of. If I was flipping through my records,
Mustone Bones, you played that?
I played Mustone Bones last night. Dangerous on the Dance Floor.
Yeah,
that was a killer. And then there's a lot of reasons why I played
that. Light-skinned Puerto Rican. I love that track.
And really quickly, the story for me behind that track is my dance partner today. Her name was Celeste. Rest in peace. We could have swore they did that record. She was the model for that record. Wild woman just like the record says, right? Great track.
That was the crowd nuts. That was a hit record, man. I used to be played everywhere here in the late 80s.
Those are a couple of New York guys, Frankie Bones and Musto. Yeah.
I've researched that as well. And like Musto is a little bit like, he's not really around as much. I've seen some interviews with him. I would love to get him for an interview. I've spoken to Frankie Bones a few times as we continue to talk. 91 is when I actually met Frankie Bones.
Cool.
But at raves here in LA, because there was a shift, a seismic shift as far as like music's concerned here in Los Angeles. And I'm curious if this happened also in New York, where I would go to a club and it was Black Box right on time. And we were like fucking jamming the Black Box and all this shit. And it was great. CNC Music Factory kind of, but more like the Black Box, kind of like upbeat house, Euro house, or even Good Life and stuff like that.
Sure.
And then the DJ for me in 1991, I'll never forget this. We're jamming that stuff, and the DJ drops T99 Anastasia. I don't know if you know that track. And it goes Music Maestro, and you hear this chorus, da na 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 na, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And this sound comes on, da da da, da, like just hyperactive. And I go to my friends, what the hell is going on here? And at the end of the night, I grab my friends and I go, dude, we gotta go to that kind of club. No more. I was like, what the hell? And I remember back then I weighed 120 pounds. The music, did that happen in New York? The launch of rave techno, was that a New York thing as well? Did you notice that?
For me, I think the biggest thing was house music.
Yes.
That I responded to house music the most, at any kind of shift in type of music, you know. But all those other ones you mentioned, they were here. But house music, I'll never forget. Two Without Hats.
Yeah.
I heard that at the Red Zone, and I was just
and house music, without house music, there's no techno, because all that stuff was.
And without disco, there's no house music.
Yes, right. And without Kraftwerks, everything just keeps going. But
it's that here's the thing, that 4x4.
Yeah.
Here's why DJs became a thing. It was due to disco. Why we do what we do today with multiple turntables and a mixer is because of disco. And it wasn't because of the music, and it wasn't because of the DJ, it was for the dancers.
Yes.
They, these dancers, these hustle dancers, right? Partners. They would dance for, it seemed literally for hours on end, and match the beats on the records so they wouldn't miss a beat on the dance floor. Because if you ever watched them in a club where they just changed the record, they have to and then reset, and it was for the dance. They could go 3, 4, 5, 10 records, and some dancers they would go that long because they could, because the beats were matching. And then that was the first thing that DJs had to learn how to do, match the beats. Then they had to make the records go together, and that was the beginning of what we do, why we do what we do today, was because of that then.
Did you have any specific DJ that inspired you? Like that was like, younger, we kind of, as I did DJs, I was like, man, they are.
Yeah. Well, I had to be DJs I've heard.
Yes.
But one stands out in particular. It was this club on Long Island called 231. And here's the thing about those days too. I just heard of the guy's name. I don't even know if I knew what he looked like at the time.
Right.
This is how clubs, we were in the wall, right? Like a window in the club, in the wall up the den. That's where the DJ was. Very rarely saw him. And this guy's name was Steve Thompson. And I used to go to 231 to hear what this guy would do. And I could, again, another one of those, how is this guy doing this with 2 turntables? And ultimately, I know he worked at Uncle Sam's, and I believe he worked at Studio 54 as well. I'd have to double. I'm pretty sure Steve Thompson worked, but I wanted to. It's not so much the sound. I wanted to pull off what this guy pulled off. Again, we had 2 of these things. Not much you could do with them compared to what we can do today with loops,
right,
and hot cues. Because if you think about it, here's the old trick. How many grooves are on that record? 1. It starts and it goes continuously right? So my point is, it's linear, right? You couldn't pick up that needle and move it. That's why we had 2 turntables. Yeah. And then we started with 3 turntables, and you're still limited on how fast and what you could do. This is why I took to electronic gear in an instant, because I was able to do finally what was in my head that I couldn't do with records. Anyway, back to your original question. This guy, his name was Steve Thompson. You could probably Google him and find out what his career looked like.
I had there was a DJ. He's probably gonna hear this right now, but well, I don't know. Listen, back in the day, I used to want to mix on radio, right? And there was a station called Power 106 here, and a guy had a show called Power Tools, which I'm wearing the shirt right now.
Cool.
Richard Humpty Vision but it's Richard Vision now. But I looked up to the guy, man. I used to go to all his clubs and go, man, this guy is like track so many people to his clubs because he's on the air and everything. And then I started mixing on his show, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like starstruck, but I'm doing my shit, for months. And then I get kind of like become a regular. And then I hear it's crazy because I really look up to this guy. And I still do. And I hear he had an intern, and years later, his intern goes to me, goes, man, do you know that every time you'd play a set on that radio station, Richard would ask me to track down every single track you play so he could play it too? And I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
I was like, what? You know what I mean? That was crazy.
It's cool when you could impress someone who you consider a mentor, right?
Yes. It was unexpected.
Because that happened to me once. And it was on Twitch, believe it, because I kind of Twitch or online kind of resurged my DJ career. And I'm not going to mention any names, but there was this guy, and he was responsible for getting me into the electronic music I play a lot of today. And long story short, he was a partner. He made a team, and he put me on his team, and he put me on his suggested streamers. And I'm thinking, oh, and then I thought, so I posted it, and I said, when your mentor puts you on that, it's not like, I made it. I felt it's time to work harder now, because you don't want to let down somebody you revere, right? In your industry, you don't want to let them down, right?
Yeah.
Especially that, like, somebody goes like, why do you have that dude on your page? He sucks, so you want to work harder. You want to, not for him, but for yourself. So I know that feeling when you kind of impress someone you hold, in high regard, right?
And also, you don't want to act too starstruck, because then it feels like it's going to be immediately noticeable that you don't belong there.
Right.
Right. That's what I tell people, because I also do interviews with movie actors, and like I've done Keanu Reeves and everything, and like, well, why do you act like how do you not stutter or lose it in front of them? It's like, well, number one, I kind of don't know a lot of the actors, believe it or not. And number two, if I stutter or act starstruck or ask for an autograph, I don't belong there. I'm a fanboy.
Right.
I become a fanboy.
Right.
I don't belong interviewing them. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about, I know we've come almost to an hour here. It's been an amazing interview and stuff. I really appreciate you. And
I appreciate you having me. I just,
cool.
I love talking about any aspect of DJing, whether it be gear, the old days, how I started, disco today. I'm seldom at a loss for words.
Yeah.
Just because I've been around a long time.
Yeah. And you know what you're talking about, and that's very important. Also, folks watching, I will drop a link to Nick's link tree in the comments area and pin it after this broadcast is over. Also, if you're live, there is a pinned comment. You could go and follow him and all his social medias that are available right now. And when this stream is over, you could also continue the conversation in the comments area. Keep watching and enjoying and rewinding and everything like that. What are your thoughts on the Twitch program? And I don't know are we allowed to criticize it? Or is there a rule against that? I don't even know.
Well, I'm not one for any kind of censorship,
right.
And I'm not going to be mean, but I'm not going to be mean, but I certainly have an opinion.
Okay. What is your opinion?
So you want to talk the Twitch DJ program?
Yes.
by and large, it's good, right? First of all, people who are artists are getting paid in theory. Now, I heard a lot of DJs, banter about, well, are the artists getting this and the artists and I'm saying, look, you're a DJ. That's not your argument. Your argument should be, and I'll get to this in a second, your argument should be something else. The argument should be coming from the artists on but in theory, artists are getting paid. Great thing, right? Because some really creative, talented people that are, I don't know what percentage of the human population they are. I'm sure it's not over 50%. It's a small percentage. And, they work hard at it. It comes natural to them. They work hard at it. They're talented and, they make records. And although it's easier today, probably, but also means there's more, they should be compensated for their artistic work. Number one. Good thing as far as that goes. Now, as far as the DJs footing that bill, I am so adamantly against that. And here's my analogy. I am paying for a Twitch business expense. Now, you're a DJ a long time. Did you ever go in a club and they had to tell you, we have this license for the music artist. You got to kick in for it.
No.
You ever heard that? No. Here's another great example. A local club. The woman owns it. Really cool woman. She wants to get some house music. Anyway, she decided to start having DJs, which means a dance floor. So she told me, yeah, my insurance went up. I said, why? Well, because of DJs? Because of the dance floor. I said, oh, you think she asked me to pay part of that? Or any of the other DJs coming in to pay part of that? No, that's her business expense. Same thing holds here. And then the argument was, well, Twitch is giving you this for free. Well, no, they're not. When you walk into a club, you don't pay anything. They pay you and the customers pay them. Same thing in Twitch. I go, all of us DJs, we go. The viewers, the customers come, they pay us. Twitch takes a cut of that. That's great. That's fine. So as far as the DJs footing the bill for the licenses to pay whomever they're paying, ASCAP, the labels or whatever, is unheard of. Absolutely unheard of. DJs should not be paying a business expense of the venue. They're the venue. And I went and looked up the definition of venue to see, because to you and I as a DJ, a venue is a club, a stage, a place where you go and play. Now this is where people show up live. Online, it's different. So I said, well, is it really a venue? So I said, let me do my homework. Well, long story short, it is. Twitch is a venue. Twitch is a venue that DJs go. So we should not be paying that.
How does that work? Do they deduct it from what people donate to you, or?
Yeah, it's a percentage, and it's a mystery as far as what. And you know what? At this stage of the game, DJing has always been a side hustle.
Yeah.
And the money I've earned from it usually just goes right back into gear and music and travel and whatever else. So, the other good thing is that now they can, and they need to do a better job at it, but I think they're doing okay. Promote DJs where they couldn't before. Now, for the longest time, DJs on Twitch were not really doing that legally. However, both sides kind of let us, the music industry side and the Twitch side. And this comes from the CEO. I'm not just making this stuff, but this is bona fide stuff. The CEO of Twitch says, well, everybody kind of let us slide because they were in talks to come up with some sort of agreement, licensing, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, but having said that, we were never featured. DJs were never featured. Twitch is a gaming platform. There's 98%, 99% gamers on that platform. But here's an interesting stat that I've heard, and I haven't verified it, but I've heard it multiple times, that DJs are 1% of the streamers on Twitch, bringing in 3% of the revenue. I think that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it is.
So DJs are kind of overachieving as far as their gamer counterparts. And that's another thing to remember. This is a gaming platform. However, it does lend itself pretty well to someone who wants to be a DJ, who wants to bring their DJ stuff to online.
If if YouTube does that though, they're toast.
No, I don't.
Search engine here on YouTube is way.
Yeah. Again, I've never done anything live on YouTube. I've only posted stuff after the fact.
Well, for an example, I'm doing this interview.
You're doing it live, right? We were live on YouTube, right?
Pretty much the first one we've done, and it's over 10 people, and it constantly coming in and out, and I can't get that on Twitch. As a beginner, I'm a beginner on Twitch. I'm not a veteran on Twitch. And this channel's new, to be clear.
That as far as that goes, that comes in time. And you know what I found? So people ask me too, like what was it like when you first came on Twitch? And I thought, well, look, I figured, I'm a pretty good DJ, right? I figure I'll go on, I'll get, drive-bys and people will stop and, no, it wasn't that way at all.
No.
Not until I started to meet other DJs and connect and commiserate and, network with other DJs that started to go up. But one
thing that does annoy me about some DJs is dude, am I here to listen to music or to listen you talk over fucking everything, bro? Like even lyrics, everything. It's like they're like this. It's like they're dying to interrupt the track. It's like, let it play. Do you see that?
Yeah.
It's not my style. If you wanted whatever, they're actually bigger than me, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. So
I agree with you. There's a lot that goes on that shouldn't. As you know, DJing is an oral medium, right?
Yeah.
It'll listen to it. There's not much to look at with this guy standing here in front of this gear.
Oh, come on. Press one if you think Nick's is hot.
Slides up. I mean, to the average listener, music aficionado, this shit don't mean anything to them. They want to hear something. They want to get turned on by what they hear, right?
Yeah.
But now we're on the internet, Twitch, and wherever else. We're being seen as well. Now, that's not to say you should not say a word. That should, not to say you shouldn't have a personality. There's a balance, right? Like you said, there's some of these people, they did not stop. I'm thinking, and then some dancing. I got banned from a channel once. I said, cool, the dancer's here. When's the DJ show up? I was really cranky.
I got into an argument as someone. I made him.
Yeah, I got banned from the channel, and I really didn't care. But, so people, they want. I go to a channel and I want to connect with them a little bit. I don't need to have a full blown conversation. But hey, Nick, how's it going? Good to see you. And blah blah blah. People come into my chat. I like to welcome them in, and I like to let the chat let them make their own, like they're in a club, right?
Yeah.
And I'll chime in now and then, or maybe I'll chime in maybe I have something to say about this record, especially when I'm doing old stuff. I have a lot to say about that stuff. But yeah, there's a balance. And then there's the ones that are there to be seen and not heard. I don't want anything to do with them. To be honest with you. They're not there to be a DJ. All this great window dressing, and I put some cool stuff because I'm an engineer I'm a computer engineer by trade.
Oh, nice.
And I like technical stuff. Whatever it is, nothing should overshadow what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is the foundation. This is what's most important. I'm doing this of course, this is what I do it on, right? This is my office, right? But there'd been, when it becomes the Gong Show and antics and, women in bras writing your name on there because you gave 5 subs.
I think we're talking about the same person.
No, there's lots of people like that. There's more than one. When that overshadows, if you need to do that to bring people in, you're probably not a great DJ. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I want people, I'll say this. I won't tell you where I'm at as far as being a partner on tour. I'm not a partner. What really kind of annoys me is people who put this, I'm on a partner push. I'm on a partner push. I'm on a part, and have people come and then they make partner and nobody comes anymore. So I don't want people to come to my stream because I said I'm gonna, I want you to come because I want to pump up my numbers because I want to be part. I want you to come to listen to me do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And my the great thing is, if I could see out there, you're all dancing in your living rooms or your bedrooms or whatever, or at least chair dancing in your office. I want you to come for that. Yeah, I got some other cool things. Like I said, I always have videos of people dancing, right? You've been to my stream, you've seen it always has. And I kind of try to make it specific. Like I'll have house music dancers when I'm playing house music, and I get these shuffle girls on there when I'm playing, progressive house. But the bottom line is I'm a DJ. People say, well, you're a streamer. I'm not a streamer. I'm a DJ who streams. I'm not a streamer who DJs. And that latter, there's way too many of those people because they heard, oh, I could be famous. I could be popular being a DJ. And if you're young and good looking, you got a chance to do that. However, to me, and a lot of OG DJs like myself, we see right through that. We don't put them on our raid trains. We don't put them on our events. You won't see them. So,
well, that being said, man, if you maybe like check out one of my sets, if you like it, suggest me for a raid.
I have, but you're on the damn coast, man. No,
I'll wake up. Listen, dude, I'm an old school dude. I have Eye of the Tiger, bro. I'll wake up early, do my sets early. The only reason I do them late is because, I just do them late.
Right.
But I'll fucking start at 6 a.m. in the morning. I don't give a shit. This is Eye of the Tiger.
Well, I've been in your stream. You've chatted in your stream.
Yeah, we do. I would love to be on a rave train and then let your friends know that. Listen, I won't wear a bikini. I won't put my name on them.
You know what? Guys know really quick. I won't have to say that. They would know that about you in short order. They would know, and
well, I don't wear a bikini, but I do have big boobs.
Yeah.
And it's not.
I will shout out an OG DJ to my crowd, and my crowd being the viewers and the DJs that are my homies in there. I always say, locking in from LA, Louis Love, OG DJ.
I know you do. You really help.
And I do that whenever I can to any of the DJs because, someone might not know you. Someone might not know somebody I've known for 4 years on Twitch, right? Mr. DJ Kenny's one of my, really tight buddies. He's here in New York. Yeah, we do a lot together. Right. Somebody might not know who he is. And we do a lot of stuff together. We do Club Progressive Underground every Monday. He made me a co-founder of the New York City House Heads. We do a lot of stuff together. And it's funny. We have our crowd together, but he's got some of his people and I got some of mine. And the goal is to get everybody to, at least meet.
Well, one thing about Twitch I do notice, in opposed to YouTube, is that YouTube, a lot of the creators act like they're individuals, and there's kind of like a standoff thing with them. And with Twitch, it's a little bit more of a community. Like
it is. Twitch is definitely more
raid out. You do raid out. It's a thing you do, even if you don't know the person. You want to raid out, and it feels like one thing. The only problem, the other day, and I don't want to. If I say this, people are going to know. The other day, I saw someone just in the DJ program inside a hot tub, not mixing. and I brought that up to another DJ.
Yeah.
And she got all pissed off at me. And it's like, you do realize that there's a segment for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also unfair to other female DJs. And I'm sorry if people hate me, that the ones that don't want to show TNA.
Right. Speaking about female DJs,
message.
I've been asked about that. Like, were there any women DJs back in their days? Like,
a lot.
Almost no, there actually wasn't. Almost no.
For us,
club DJ, or maybe different out by you guys, but in New York, I remember there was one that's Jenny Costa, who's still around. She was awesome. But as far as in the club DJs, I didn't know any. And well, the cool thing about Twitch is I've gotten to come to know more, and there's a good bunch of them that are just care about the music.
Yes, that's
more than the other stuff that you mentioned.
Well, for us let me correct myself. Listen, there were female DJs. Were there way more men? Yes.
Oh yeah, there was yeah.
Way more.
Why? I don't know. It just was.
But it was a thing in my experience that men were more into DJing. And as a matter of fact, a lot of girls, you tell them you DJ, they would roll their eyes at you and tell you to get a
right,
real job.
right.
Okay. So and it wasn't like the DJs in the 80s and 90s discouraged, at least in my community, discouraged women to join. We wanted women to be DJs. It was cool. Fuck, it's a girl DJ. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. But you better be good.
Awesome. And it bothers
just like
me.
any new guy. You better be good.
Yeah, the good thing is, but just a girl DJ, that's rare. You wanted to see a girl into the stuff us guys were into too. I mean, back in the day.
Yes.
And it kind of bothers me that nowadays the narrative is guys don't want girls to DJ. Bullshit. At least my experience, I never discriminated against female DJs.
Well, Twitch kind of magnified, the visual things that some of these people get away with in the name of being a DJ, and it's like any other job, like my job as an engineer. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what you are.
Yeah.
Can you be on my team and, work well together? Are you good?
Exactly.
You good at what you do? That's all I really care about, because, quite frankly, if you were in a club, like the way it used to be in the wall, you wouldn't know if it was a man or a woman, what age they were, what hair color, you didn't know. You just know, like, because I remember, like, what determined what club we went to, like, oh, I heard the DJ's hot and the crowd is great, no disrespect to bartenders, but you never heard of, oh, the bartenders are great, but it was always more the entertainment, and the socializing. Right? So
I lost a lot of gigs to bartenders and security guards back in the day. Everybody wanted to be a DJ. And as a matter of fact, 1999, I quit. And I came back like 2010 when I started, because vinyl started dying. And, look, right. I tell a lot of people, and I'll end this because we're already at an hour and a half. You're probably like, oh, F this guy, he talks too much. But back in the day, like, I always tell everybody, the vinyl purist is, oh, you left vinyl and everything's like, no, vinyl left me, man. I can't afford $20 per single. It's like, it's all expensive. It went from 7 to 12 to 15, 20, 30 and everything. So I quit after a while, actually losing gigs to ridiculous security guards. And then I came back when I realized that, hey, they actually made digital feel like a record, and you get the tracks for a couple bucks, $3.
Especially if you're, if you're a real vinyl enthusiast. I mean, or if you're a scratch DJ, the DVS is, killer. For that feel, for that kind of feel. I don't need that kind of feel. This kind of digital gear allows me to put out what I want to put out in the way I want to put it out, if that makes sense. That I couldn't do with records. Now, and I always say this about my records. All right, they're analog. Yeah, there's an argument that they do sound better. There's an argument about it. I have an analog mixer. So there's the trade-off there. But the same token, it's old tech. I'm very nostalgic about my records. I loved going to the record store. There was only so many. I was one of the favorite DJs that they held the stuff behind the counter because they only got a certain amount, right? Me and my posse, the DJs that I knew they were going, I'm very nostalgic about those days and playing the records and having the record. But it's old technology. I mean, if I'm playing a set, Frogman said, hey, Nick, play this. I could do it. Could do a search. If I don't have it, these things are online. I could link up with whatever service, Beatport, whatever, and pull that record down and play it.
Yes.
So that's the other thing that makes it a challenge too as a DJ, as far as elevating your talent. Everybody has access to everything, right? I mean, I've heard, I got some rare stuff that's digital, and I've heard it being played after I played it. If you were in a club and you were a DJ and you liked the DJ and you wanted that, you had to wait for you to get your hands on that record. You know what I mean? It was not available to you. Right. That right then. right? If you're in a club now, so, oh, I love this song, right? You Shazam it, boom, you download it, it's on your phone,
Yeah.
bring it home. In one aspect, that's good. And
I'm
another
laughing
aspect,
because that's what I do.
yeah. And another aspect, so Bernadette writes, there's nothing like vinyl. Yes, I mean, the sound of it and the nostalgia of it and, the memory of what we were doing then with it. Yeah, it's great. But
Also, the hunt for the actual vinyl. I used to work at a record store, by the way, on Melrose, so I know. I
okay,
had
so
vinyl coming out of my brain. Yeah. Well, Nick, listen. I want to give you the last word to say whatever you like. Promote your channel.
okay.
Any last thoughts before we go? And I really appreciate you coming on in here, and I do believe we could do this again in a few.
I'll chop it up with you anytime, Louis.
Yeah, in a few months, if you have a something else, maybe like an event you want to pimp out or anything like that. Not, it doesn't have to just be a
Let me
straight
say
interview.
something real quick. Have
Yeah.
you heard of anything called ecstatic dance parties? Something I've come across recently. It's almost like a pop-up party, but they're organized and they're groups that do it. There's no alcohol, there's no drugs, there's no shoes. You go barefoot dancing, and I'm doing them now. There's one group here. They have me on every so often, and it's great. They're there to dance, and I'm open to play whatever I want. There's no phones on the dance floor. The people are just there dancing. There's no, like I said, no, I don't drink anymore. There's no alcohol, there's no drugs, and the people are just, it's like, wow, really fabulous. If you ever have a chance, I'm sure they got them in LA. If they have, they have them all over. A friend of mine in Australia asked me, he said, hey, what about that? What's that? Ecstatic. Yeah.
Ecstatic.
The one over here is called the Barefoot Boogie in New York. And the one up here is called, I'll think of it. But anyway, check it out. It's pretty cool. Not pretentious. That's what I like about it. You can just go and be yourself. I love DJing that. So I just wanted to ask you if you ever heard that, because I'm starting to ask DJs now. Say, hey, have you ever heard of it?
No, send me that link. You got my email. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Have a segment about it.
Well, I'll tell you, when you go up, I'm sure if you do ecstatic dance in Los Angeles, I'm sure a ton of links will come up. Shit ton of links will come up, and there'll be websites and videos and. So the only thing I got coming up tonight. So it's almost 4:15 here in New York time. So at 5:00 New York time. So that's 45 minutes from now, wherever you are, right? Yeah. I'm on Ibiza Stardust Radio. I got my show on every second and fourth Thursday. I bring my show Club Progressive Underground. It's a mix show, 1 hour. They encourage us to talk. Not like traditional radio. I don't want to overdo it. So usually I'll, if there's somebody's record that, that I want to push, that I know, I'll do that. So you could find us on Apple Music, Deezer, TuneIn, Mixcloud. We have our own iOS and Android app, which is the best way, because if I'm on, you click the thumbs up. That's how I made top 10 shows twice in the last couple of months. There you go. Cool. So that's what I got coming up tonight. Also,
basically that link tree has all the info. So
yeah.
You guys were gold with it.
Yeah, but if you want to listen to Ibiza Stardust Radio, like I said, just go to Apple Music, type in, same thing on. And I just found out we're on Spotify as well. I haven't checked it out on Spotify. I heard we're there. We're on Mixcloud. Like I said, Deezer and TuneIn, not as popular as Apple Music, but we're there as well. And the website is ibizastardustradio.com. The folks over there are great. So I'm on tonight, 5:00 New York time, 11 p.m. in Central Europe, Ibiza. And I'm also on Twitch tonight at 6 p.m. New York time. So that would be 3 p.m. Out in LA. Again, your time may vary.
3 p.m. Yeah, in a couple hours.
A couple hours. Yeah. So that's what's coming up for me. Also, myself and Mr. DJ Kenny, we've been handed the team Vibes for the Tribes that was originally started by DJ Fadi Bali and Shinta Loves House Music. They're in Bali. They started this, and unfortunately, they can't really stream anymore. They took on some really great jobs in entertainment in Bali, and Kenny and myself have taken it. We have our Escaping Winter Festival coming up in the middle of March. that'll be on my Instagram and all that stuff. So that's what's coming up for me.
Well, that sounds amazing, man. It's great.
In addition, one
Yeah.
more thing. Again, my first. I mean, I've produced a track or two here and there. I got to give a big shout out to D. Cristino at Brooklyn Sessions Tracks for picking up my track. It's titled Sardinia Sunrise. It's an electronic track. It'll be out in May. So that's the only other thing I had to plug.
Yeah, maybe we should get. I need to ask you a few questions about making some tracks, man. Like I'm having trouble finishing stuff because of the mix down, getting everything loud and stuff. But that's a different conversation.
Well, I spoke to the label. I spoke to the guy who I know, D. Cristino, and he says, "Hey, get it mastered. I'll send you to the guy."
Oh, okay.
Some guys in Europe. I don't know if I can mention the name. If I could,
mention whatever you want.
Okay, so he said go to 3K Audio. They're in Europe. So he said they're really cool. I messaged the guy on Instagram. Was the fastest way to get him. The guy was great. I emailed him the link to download it, and 2 days later, it came back mastered. Holy shit! He made my track, like, gave it color, if you will, more color. It's so hard to describe what
he added. The hot sauce in the burrito.
Yeah, when they mastered it, I don't know. You could use any analogy you want. They kicked ass. He says. I said, "Holy shit!" He goes, "Yeah, it sounds a lot better."
Yeah, send me that.
Because these guys know what they do. A lot of guys who create music want to learn how to master, and from what I understand, it's a real
it's bad,
art.
Man.
It's a real art, and there's a lot of work. And I just paid them $15 to do it, 15 euros, whatever.
Well, shit. Yeah, send me that because that's very frustrating when you have a good track.
Once you're done. Right.
Yeah, you put it out and it sounds like shit compared to everyone else's, and you're like,
well, yeah, because I'd be playing it on the decks here, and I'm thinking, why is it like not as robust as these, the commercially produced? And well, that's why it wasn't mastered professionally.
Yeah, sound frequencies. There's a whole thing with sound frequencies and stuff.
Obviously, these folks, professionals, audio engineers, clearly, as far as I'm concerned.
So, all right, Nick, we will see you tonight, man. I'll be over there and everything.
Willis, thank you so much. Great talking to you.
Great.
It's so much better to see you. Yeah, even though it's on screen and not in person, to see you and talk to you that way than to chat on the in the chat room.
Oh yeah, it's totally different. That's why I wanted to. Before this, I didn't really talk to you much. I just put you on and got to know you. But yeah, very cool. Everyone, check out NIX in the Mix. Tonight I'll be there and I'll share his stream. Thank you very much, brother.
Louis, thank you. Have a great night.
Talk to you later. Everybody, thank you. Rave United out.